We stood at the entrance of the abandoned station, the broken windows staring back at us like hollow eyes, and I could almost hear the distant whistle of a train that hadn't passed through here in decades. The air was thick with an unsettling quiet, broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves in the breeze. It felt as if the very ground beneath us held its breath, waiting for something to happen. As we stepped further into the crumbling station, my friends and I exchanged nervous glances. I could feel the weight of the stories surrounding this place, the whispers of those who had vanished along the tracks. They said the train line was abandoned after a series of unexplained disappearances, and curiosity had drawn us here like moths to a flame. Our first stop was the old ticket booth, where faded posters still clung to the walls, advertising destinations long forgotten. I imagined the bustling activity of travelers once eager to board their trains, unaware of the sinister fate that awaited many of them. It was eerily silent now, and the stillness was punctuated by the creaking of the building as if it were alive, warning us to leave. We wandered outside onto the rusted tracks, their once proud metal now cloaked in layers of rust and overgrown weeds. The forest loomed on either side, dense and foreboding, casting long shadows that danced with the shifting light. I felt a chill run down my spine, and an involuntary shiver swept over me as I looked down the tracks, imagining what might have lurked there in the past. As we walked, a soft breeze brushed against my face, carrying with it a low whisper that seemed to call my name. I turned to my friends, their faces pale, mirroring my own unease. "Did you hear that?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. They nodded, their eyes wide with fear, but we pressed on, driven by a mix of curiosity and adrenaline. Hours slipped by as we delved deeper into the wilderness. The forest enveloped us, each step into the thick underbrush heightening our sense of isolation. I glanced back at the station, a dark silhouette against the dimming sky, and felt a strange pull to the abandoned rails, as if they were inviting us to uncover their secrets. Night fell like a shroud, and with it came an unsettling stillness. The air grew colder, and the faint sounds of the forest seemed to fade into an eerie silence. It was then that we heard it, a distant sound, a train whistle echoing through the trees. I froze, heart racing, as we all exchanged terrified looks. There was no train, not here, not now. Our laughter had turned to nervous chatter, a desperate attempt to dismiss the tension in the air. But as we set up camp near the tracks, the whispers returned, weaving through the branches above. It felt as if unseen eyes were watching us from the darkness. I glanced around, half expecting to see something or someone emerge from the shadows. We gathered around a small fire, its flickering light offering little comfort against the encroaching darkness. As we shared ghost stories, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being drawn into a narrative far darker than any we had imagined. I watched as my friends exchanged anxious glances, each of us sensing that we were not alone. Just as I was about to nod off, a rustling sound broke the stillness. My heart leapt in my chest as I sat up, straining to see into the trees. The shadow shifted, and for a moment I thought I saw a figure standing at the edge of the clearing. But when I blinked, it was gone, leaving me questioning my sanity. One of my friends decided to investigate. He stood up, flashlight in hand, and began to walk toward the sound. "It's probably just an animal," he assured us, but his voice trembled slightly. The rest of us stayed behind, anxiety clawing at our throats as we tried to convince ourselves it was nothing. Minutes felt like hours as we waited, the shadows creeping closer. Just when I thought we should call him back, we heard a scream slice through the silence. I jumped to my feet, my blood running cold. "Alex!" I shouted, the fear gripping my heart. We rushed toward the sound, fear propelling us into the dark. We found him at the base of an old tree, panting and wide-eyed. "I saw something," he gasped, pointing into the woods. It was a person, but they vanished. We exchanged worried glances, our minds racing with the implications. Had we really come to a place where the past mingled so freely with the present? The atmosphere had shifted, the air thick with tension, as we retreated back to our camp. Whatever Alex had seen lingered in our minds, feeding the unease that enveloped us. We huddled closer together, hoping the fire would keep the darkness at bay. But it felt increasingly futile. As we tried to settle back into a semblance of normalcy, the train whistle echoed again, closer this time. I felt it reverberate through my chest, a haunting sound that called to something deep within me. The noise tugged at my memory, as if I had heard it before in a dream, awakening an instinctual dread. The whispers returned, now clearer, flowing like a cold breeze through the trees. "They're coming," I thought I heard, the words chilling me to the bone. The idea that we might be surrounded by those who had vanished along these very tracks was almost too much to bear. We had ventured too far into the unknown. In the depths of the night, the shadows grew long and twisted, almost sentient in their movements. It was then I felt a chill wash over me, as if a cold hand had brushed against my back. I turned sharply, but the darkness revealed nothing, only the silent, watchful trees. My heart raced, and I could feel the weight of dread settle heavily on my shoulders. Suddenly, a loud clatter broke the silence, making us all jump. The fire sputtered as a gust of wind swept through, causing the flames to dance wildly. My friend Mia gasped, pointing toward the tracks. I followed her gaze and saw, for just a heartbeat, a flicker of light moving along the rails, reminiscent of a train's lantern. It was gone before I could comprehend it, leaving only the echoes of our pounding hearts. "Did you see that?" I exclaimed, breathless. My friends nodded, fear etched on their faces. The fear that we had ventured too far into this haunted territory began to gnaw at me. What if we were not meant to be here? As dawn broke, we decided to explore the tracks more thoroughly. The eerie happenings from the previous night still fresh in our minds. The mist clung to the ground, wrapping around our feet like a ghostly shroud. I felt an urgency to uncover the truth behind the stories that had brought us here. The tracks led us deeper into the forest, where the trees stood tall and ancient. Each step felt like a descent into history, the air thick with memories of those who had once traveled this line. I wondered how many had embarked on journeys that never reached their destinations, and the thought sent shivers down my spine. We stumbled upon an old rusted sign, half buried in the underbrush. It read Cedar Grove Station, a name that sent a wave of recognition washing over me. This was the place where the disappearances had been most concentrated, where the stories of ghostly figures had begun. My heart raced as I felt a connection to the past. Just as I began to ponder the significance, I heard a faint whisper, calling my name again. It felt closer now, a voice woven into the very fabric of the forest. "Stay with us," it seemed to say, a chilling invitation that sent goosebumps rippling over my skin. I hesitated, the urge to turn back battling against the pull of the unknown. The atmosphere shifted once more, thickening with a sense of foreboding. My friends exchanged nervous glances, and I realized we were all feeling the weight of the place pressing down on us. Every rustle of leaves seemed amplified, a reminder of how vulnerable we were in this desolate wilderness. We continued our exploration, but the deeper we went, the more the forest felt alive, as if it were aware of our presence. I spotted movement out of the corner of my eye, a flicker of white amidst the trees. When I turned, nothing was there, only the whispering winds and the oppressive silence. Suddenly, Mia stumbled upon an old conductor's hat, lying forgotten in the underbrush. She picked it up, holding it as if it were a relic of a long-lost past. "This was someone's," she whispered, and the weight of her words hung heavily in the air. It felt as if we were trespassing on memories, better left undisturbed. As the sun dipped low in the sky, we decided to head back to our camp. I felt an unsettling sense of urgency, a need to escape the encroaching darkness. The sounds of the forest had shifted, taking on a sinister tone, and with every step, I could sense the shadows stretching closer. Upon reaching our campsite, we found our belongings scattered, as if someone or something had been rifling through them. Panic surged through me. "What happened?" I asked, my voice trembling. The feeling of being watched intensified, and I could no longer shake the sense that we were not alone. It was then that I noticed a train ticket lying in the dirt, its edges frayed and worn. My hands trembled as I picked it up, the name Cedar Grove printed in faded ink. It felt like a cruel reminder of the tales we had heard. We were standing in the very place where so many had vanished, and now we might be next. The sound of a train whistle echoed through the trees again, louder this time, resonating like a tolling bell. Fear gripped my heart as I glanced at my friends, their faces ashen. "We need to leave," I urged, but deep down, I felt the allure of the stories pulling me back, whispering promises of discovery. As we hastily packed our things, the air grew thicker with unnatural tension. The shadows deepened, stretching long and ominous around us. I could hear the faint sound of footsteps approaching, echoing along the tracks as if someone were walking toward us. We were not just in a haunted place. We were part of its legacy now. We took off down the tracks, hearts pounding, the fading light enveloping us. Each step felt heavier, the forest closing in as if trying to reclaim us. The whispers were louder now, swirling around us, tugging at our consciousness. "Stay," they beckoned, echoing through the shadows of the trees. My mind raced with the thought of what we might encounter. Would we become another chapter in the story of the vanished? As we ran, the distant sound of a train grew stronger, the ground vibrating beneath our feet, merging the present with the echoes of the past. In our desperate flight, we stumbled upon the ruins of an old bridge. We hesitated, the decaying structure looming above us like a spectre from another time. The train whistle echoed again, piercing the silence, and we exchanged terrified glances. There was no turning back now. We had come too far into the heart of the legend. As we crossed the bridge, the wind picked up, swirling around us, carrying the scent of damp earth and decay. I felt an overwhelming urge to look back, to see if anything was following us. But I could only focus on the path ahead, where the darkness seemed to gather like a living entity. The sounds of the forest faded, replaced by the rhythmic clattering of wheels on rails, growing closer. It was as if the train itself were chasing us, desperate to reclaim what had been lost. Panic surged through me, propelling us forward even faster as the air crackled with tension. Suddenly, one of my friends tripped, falling hard onto the tracks. "Go!" he shouted, his voice filled with desperation. I turned back, torn between helping him and the overwhelming fear urging me to run. But in that moment, I saw something. A figure standing on the tracks, watching us with hollow eyes. My heart raced as I pulled my friend up, adrenaline coursing through my veins. "We can't stay," I yelled, dragging him along as we sprinted away. The sound of the train growing louder, the ground trembling beneath us. The figure faded into the mist, leaving behind an unsettling sense of foreboding. As we burst through the trees and into the clearing, the train whistle blared one final time, reverberating in the stillness. We ran, not looking back, propelled by the primal urge to escape whatever darkness we had awakened. As the last remnants of the ghostly train disappeared into the fog, we realized that not all of us had made it back. And in the eerie silence that followed, the rails seemed to hum with the echoes of the vanished. We stumbled into the sunlight, gasping for breath, but the weight of our experience lingered like a shadow. We were changed, marked by the stories we had uncovered. As we turned to leave, I glanced back one last time at the abandoned station. The broken windows seemed to whisper a warning. Some stories are best left untold.